Hey everyone, welcome to the Legal Hour, where every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, we are joined by other attorneys, judges, and legal professionals so they can talk and share about their area of expertise. If you don't know me, my name is Tamika Johnson. I am an estate planning attorney in the state of Georgia. To hear more about my services, you can check out the website, johnsonlawpractice.com. But today we are talking with attorney Michelle Butler. And so this is an area, again, that I don't know much about at all. So I'm excited to hear about this, not just for me, but for you all as well. I know there's a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that I'm connected with that will find this very, very beneficial. Michelle, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you.
Um, Michelle has extensive experience in the procurement process and the bidding process and getting contracts with government agencies. So, on any level, she works with a major county in the Atlanta area, in DeKalb County, but you can get contracts as a business owner, whether you provide goods or services at the local level. So it can be city level, county level, state level, and also most of you have heard about getting contracts on a federal level. So we're going to talk all about it. This is a pre-recorded session, so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. I will forward them over to Attorney Butler if you have them in reference to this area. So, Attorney Butler, if you can just tell us a little bit about you, your experience, your history, how you even got started in this area of contract bidding and procurement.
All right. Well, again, my name is Michelle Butler. I'm originally from New Jersey. Then my family, we moved here for high school. So I think I get to claim the peach status. It depends on who you talk to. I actually attended law school in Birmingham, Alabama. I attended Cumberland School of Law. And when I got done with my clerkship and returned back to Birmingham after that, I actually practiced in um, criminal, families, minor estate planning, and business organization and contracts. Um, Now, as you mentioned, I am currently working as a government agency's one of their procurement managers. And I just kind of transitioned into that space. I originally started with them in compliance. And in order for me to process how I need to do things, I need to understand the foundation of it. And so, in trying to understand what it was I was making sure was in compliance, it meant me talking to different people, finding out what they do, and kind of researching that. And that kind of opened me up into this procurement field and helped me realize it was much bigger than what I thought it was. So there's actually room to do all types of things in this space. And so now I'm still growing in it, still learning in it. It's ever changing, and it's actually it aligns with my personality. So it lets me continue to learn. Doesn't necessarily require me to do litigation, even though that is an area that you can get into if you want to. But it lets me use my skill sets in a way that fits me.
Okay, that's awesome. So I think a lot of times when people think of getting a contract with a governmental agency, I'm thinking, at least, for me, I'm thinking, okay, supplying arms to the military. I'm thinking like supplying toilets to like buildings, governmental buildings, that kind of thing. But it's so much broader than that. Can you kind of go over, what kind of things and what kind of professionals can actually benefit and get contracts with governmental agencies?
Yes. So when you think about procurement, everybody does just simply think about it as government contracting, but procurement is beyond just the public realm. There are also procurement departments in the private sector. So Chick-fil-A has their own procurement department, Porsche, Mercedes, the hospitals. Procurement is everywhere. You just have to kind of drill down a little more. And it's a ton of organizations, there are whole businesses just focused on capture management, meaning how do we capture the business of entities that are asking us to supply things. There's places offer certifications for that as well. So if you kind of not get stuck on only doing government contracting, it opens up entirely. But it requires you to do the research as well. So with that being said, in the public arena, we all know about the federal government, but you can also participate in procurement opportunities on the state level, the county level, cities, small municipalities also have them. And whenever you hear about the cities, becoming their own city, or the little municipalities deciding, hey, we want to do our own thing, they stand up their own procurement department. So that's another opportunity. And because they're smaller, it may be a little easier to get your foot in the door, because they're not buying as large of things as, say, Fulton County would, because they're supplying things for the entire county. But you want to understand that there's no one particular type of thing that they're buying. They service the state, local governments, federal government. They service the community. So they need everything. They need attorneys. They need real estate professionals. They need consultants, business consultants. They need the people that can supply sneakers. They need the people that can supply toilets, portable toilets. There are so many opportunities out there. You just have to look for them and stay on top of them.
Okay, so let's get to the looking part of it. Mm-hmm. Where would one look, and how often should people be looking? I'm assuming you should be looking all the time, but where do you look to find these opportunities?
So step one is to look at the entity that you're trying to work with, because they post them. There are some companies out there who their whole business model is collecting that information and then farming it out to you for a fee. And so, they've done all the hard work of looking at all these different places, so you can use them. But also, it's also free for you to look that stuff up yourself. So the federal government, they have a website. If you've never been to the SAM site, go to the SAM site, check out those websites. If you've never gone to the Small Business Administration page, go to their page. It has so much information on there, especially about the federal, because that's a whole special space as compared to state and local. And so you want to make sure that you understand that setup as much as possible. Also, there are other organizations out there that link up with small businesses and even large businesses, and they have educational programs, and they just teach you that stuff and teach you how to get that business and teach you about those different certifications that those entities are looking for, and talk about how you can get your foot in the door. On the state and local level, also that information is publicized on their website. I know in Georgia, it is required that the state publish that stuff for people to see. It's available through open records. So everything that relates to that particular procurement is available. Same thing on the local and city level. We're all subject to open records. So all of that information is required to be up there, and you just have to check it. Every entity, every smaller entity is different though. So for instance, I work for DeKalb County, and we post things every Monday. So you at minimum want to look at everything every week, because we post every week. But there are some entities that post whenever they get the stuff, so it's every day. So if you have someone in your shop who that's all that they do, it may be worthwhile to do that. But again, there are companies that can do that work for you, but that's not free.
Okay. Now, do you know any of the names of the companies that actually gather the information, even if it is for a fee?
I'm blanking right now, because there really are a lot, and they kind of pop up. But I know Blue Book, for one, does a lot for those who sell commodities, and actually I've seen them for services as well. And I think they've also linked up with someone called Dodge, so they may be called Blue Book Dodge now.
Okay. And you mentioned the SAM site. Is that for state?
That's actually federal.
It's federal. Okay.
Federal. You want to also check the SBA site.
Okay. What does the SAM site stand for?
Goodness. And I just had to look at it a couple of days ago.
SBA, I know. I got that one.
Oh goodness.
But it's federal.
I'm blanking, but it is an acronym. So
okay. I'll put it in the notes so that anyone can access it afterwards. So tell us, how easy or how hard is it to put in a bid or to apply for some of these governmental contracts?
It may appear that it's hard, but it's really not, provided that you've done all the things that you need to do well in advance. So one thing that individuals need to think about is making sure that their business is already set up in the proper way. So you've had previous speakers on who talked about making sure their IP is locked down, and making sure that their business structure is locked down. All of that matters, because whether it's federal, city, state, or local or county, you have to have the proper licensing you're supposed to have. You're supposed to have the correct certifications you're supposed to have to do whatever it is that you do. So if you don't have any of that together, and you've never had any of that together, it can seem like a very difficult task trying to bid on something or submit a proposal on something. So step one is make sure that your business house is together. So if you're supposed to be an LLC, but you've never done the paperwork for an LLC, you're not an LLC. So you need to get that done. Right. If you're saying you're a corporation, but you've never actually incorporated, you need to get that done. If you're saying you're a joint venture, but you guys don't actually have anything that actually says you're a joint venture, you need to get that locked down. And there's formal joint ventures and informal joint ventures, but you want to make sure that your business matters are already locked down, because that's actually what messes people up, is none of that stuff is together. That automatically will kick you out. If you don't have the licensing you're supposed to have, then you can't demonstrate that you can do whatever it is they need you to do. And then there are some things that you have to already have the licensing together before you can even submit or say that you can submit. And so those are things you can't just get right away. You can't just get a business license. You can't just go down to whatever county or city you work in and get a business license that day. Right. That never has ever worked that way. Never. So if you've been in business for 25 years and you've never had a business license, but you now want to submit on government contracts or even private because they want to know that you have what you're supposed to have as well, and you've never had any of that taken care of, highly unlikely that that's going to work out in your favor. Mm-hmm. So step one is get the background business stuff together. And that may seem hard because you want to put in so you can get this money first, but that's half the battle, is making sure all of that stuff is lined up. Also, you want to have your business team together. So you want someone that's going to be able to look at those contracts if that's not what you do, because you don't want to sign off on anything that you don't understand. So if you don't have an attorney on deck, you need to get one. Mm-hmm. If you aren't that great at administrative matters, you need to get someone to do that for you, because no one wants to hear I didn't turn my invoice in, because you only get paid when you turn your invoices in. So if you don't turn them in, you don't get paid. And no one wants to see 2-year-old invoices asking to be paid. And some contracts actually say that you have to turn it in by a certain time, or that's it. So another reason why you want to make sure you read those things, or have someone who does it for you. There are some companies out there, small businesses included, who actually assist businesses in developing or preparing to submit. They help you kind of understand what it is that's being asked for. They may even do a review of whatever you're about to turn in to make sure that you answered whatever needed to be answered or provided whatever needed to be provided. You can do it even if you're a one-man shop. No one's saying that you have to, stack your in-house with people, but you want to have certain people to go to, because whatever is not in your ministry, it's okay to deal, to link with someone who that is what they do. And even if you do it on a contract basis with them, it's fine. But you want to have that stuff locked down, because that kills people. That administrative stuff kills people.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff you could get awarded something and still end up having it rescinded because you don't have the ability to sign the contract or go into the contract. If you can't get your licensing, or if you can't get your insurance, if no one wants to insure you, well, no one's going to work with that. If you can't get whatever bonds that are needed, no one's going to be able to work with that. And for Georgia, there are some rules about what type of work requires bonding. So if you can't get it, they can't work with you. Right. Even if they like you, they can't.
Right.
So it's not really hard in the sense of, answering what the request is. The hard part is making sure that you've done all the heavy lifting before you ever even submit it for anything.
Yeah, I like how you put, if it's not in your ministry. I love how you present that. That was good. So I'm going to try to ask some questions that I think people may want to know, and they may seem very basic, but I'm going to ask them anyway.
It's understood.
So some people may be wondering, well, I have a business, but I work from home, but I don't have a business license. Do I have to get a business license? And I'll let you answer that.
So there are actually many cities and counties that recognize that, and they offer a business license that's specific to a home-based business. And I think they actually don't even visit your home because it's a home-based business, and who has time to go visit people's houses like that? But you want to definitely look into that.
Okay. Now, I know all the other things, like as far as structure, having that together. What about your financials? Or those things that are requested when you are putting in a proposal or bidding for a contract?
Definitely. And awesome question. You definitely want to make sure your finances are together, because not just the fact that that could be an issue for whatever company or whatever government entity ends up providing you a contract, but that could ruin you. So if you don't or have never actually had your business finances looked at, or you're not really good at doing that, or you've commingled your stuff, you want to take care of that first. As a business owner, you always want to make sure that you actually understand what's going in, what's coming out of your business, what it costs to run your business, whatever your profit margin is. You want to know about all of that stuff and be knowledgeable about that, because that goes into how you bid on something. You really, and there are a lot of solicitations out there where they want that breakdown also. If you do federal government stuff, they want to see and need to see that breakdown, because federal funds are paying for that, and they need to understand where all that has gone. There are allowable costs and not allowable costs. And so you have to have an understanding about where all of that stuff goes. It's not just saying I can do it for, 20,000. Well, where does that, how does that work? And you're going to have to be able to break that down. So if you've never done that before, you need to be ready for that. And there are also people out there who kind of do that work as well. Again, not free. Again, this is how this space is open for all, because if you can find your niche in it, there are people that need the help and who don't have the time to do it and are willing to pay for it, because time is money, and there is a price that is allocated to your time. So finances, very important. You definitely want to know the difference between your personal finances and your business finances. And even if you're at home doing the stuff from your house, that's fine. You just have to make sure that you have that stuff lined up in the appropriate way. So you definitely want to speak to the appropriate tax attorneys, the appropriate accountants, or appropriate finance individuals that you have on deck. You definitely want to line that stuff up, because assuming that you do submit and you are awarded something, if you can't financially support taking it on, the government or nor company is going to appreciate that. You submit it indicating that you have the capabilities. And the capabilities aren't just that you have the technical knowledge, but you also have the human capital as well as the financial capital to do whatever it is they need you to do in the time frame that they need you to do it in. I know there are some companies also out there, again, this is a space open for varied individuals. There are companies out there that are willing to assist in that financial arena where they will front you the money so you can do what you need to do to get that contract because they know you have it and they know you're going to get paid so long as you do what you're supposed to do, and you pay them back. It's so many arrangements that are out there that you just have to find the thing that works for what you're dealing with.
That last part is very interesting. I didn't know that existed. So basically, okay, so you're saying that there's companies that are like, okay, I know you're going, basically, the chance of you getting awarded this contract is pretty high. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to give you the money to get your financials together, your P&L statements, or I don't know what it is that they need. And then once you get it, then you can pay us on the other end. Is that
so it's the ones I've seen, and that may exist, but the ones I've seen, you've already been awarded.
Okay.
Maybe you haven't started yet, but you've already been awarded. You've got all this stuff that you have to take care of up front, but you don't have the capital to do that. They will take care of that for you, and you do pay them back on the back end. Now, a lot of government agencies are not paying that third party. They pay you because that's who they have the contract with. But whatever the company is that you're dealing with, they may be, there's some type of agreement that they have set up, but governments are not going to pay the third party that you've linked up with. But there are companies that are out there to help with that because sometimes you have to stand up an office in a location to do whatever it is you need to do and outfit that with all types of things, and you may not have all of that up front to do. You may not have all the capital up front to do all of that, but this contract is going to be awesome for you. You're going to knock it out the park technically, but you don't have the ability to go set up a whole office to do it. There's another way.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to go back to the financial portion of it, just so people are clear. So we're looking at, and you can correct me if need be or add. Mm-hmm. So I'm just assuming tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, that kind of thing. Are those the things that people need to at least have ready to submit at some point once they're bidding for a contract?
Yeah. So every place is going to be different on what they want to see. But I'm used to, for the entity that I work with, we do ask for audited tax returns. In the alternative, we do ask for the profit loss, the cash flow, because those are ways that we can see, do you have it and where's it going? One sheet will make it look like you have things, but there's another sheet that really allows it to be seen where's that money going. And so that's why they ask for those three things. But audited is what we would prefer, but we understand that not everybody has that. It costs to do audited financial statements. And so at minimum, everybody should have their profit loss. Like that's stuff you should be doing anyway. Mm-hmm. And so it shouldn't be that difficult to get them. But there are people who don't do that at all. And so that goes back to is it hard? If you've not been doing it, it's going to be very difficult. Mm-hmm. But yes, you definitely at minimum be keeping up with your finances. Even if you're not the one doing it, having someone do it and then making sure that you at least have an idea about what it means will definitely help you.
Right. And how important is credit in the whole application process or bidding process?
So federal government may look into that. We don't necessarily look into your credit. However, when we need bonds, which, for instance, bid bond, if you're bidding on an invitation to bid or an invitation for a bid with an entity, they may have a bid bond requirement, which is a surety bond stating that you're submitting in good faith. If we move past this to a contract, you're going to move forward with it. You're not going to suddenly pull out after it's been put in. And usually that's, 5, 10, whatever the entity's asking for, percent of whatever you're turning in. But that's insurance based. That's with an insurance company. So if you don't have good credit, you aren't very likely to be able to get an insurance company or a surety to say, oh yeah, we're here for this. Also, rolling back to the financials, sureties look at that as well. They look at your financials, they look at what it is you're bidding on, and if it doesn't look good to them, they don't want to participate with you.
Gotcha. So how realistic is it for a new business to apply for a contract or bid? Meaning, is it realistic for a business that's been in operation or professional that's been in business for about a year to submit a contract?
It depends on what they're submitting on.
Okay.
So opportunities are out there for new and more established. But it just depends on where you're submitting and on what. So if, for instance, you're trying to submit on something and it says it needs 3 years of experience, but you don't have 3 years of experience, don't waste the paper on that. However, there are individuals who may want to subcontract with you. And so that's an opportunity for you to get the experience without being the one who has to sign the contract. You'll have a contract between you and whomever that particular prime contractor is, but the actual contract with that entity will be between that entity and that prime. But you can count that. And then if you're great at what you do and they love you, when they move on to bid on something else, they'll immediately be thinking about you, because that's how business works. People want to work with who they know and trust. So if you knocked it out of the park on this last thing they had, they're going to look at you again. And there are different certifications that different entities have for small businesses or minority businesses or women-owned businesses. And so if you get those or have those, and that particular solicitation required that, and they know you had that, and you were awesome the last time they dealt with you, they're going to come to you every time. And slowly you're going to gain that experience. And then you'll get to a place where financially you can support getting a contract on your own. You have the capital for it, the human capital for it if you need it, and you have the experience. And it just kind of flows that way. And so also with that in mind, a lot of places have these social economic programs geared towards that very thing, to help new companies get their foot in the door, because they know it's hard.
Yeah. So, okay, let's kind of go a little bit through the process. We've seen the advertisement, we've seen it, a contract or a bid, opportunity presented. We put in a bid. What are the next steps, and kind of like a range of time frames for things to be awarded?
So at minimum, you probably want to think about, if it's, larger dollar, because there's also a thing called request for quotes, much smaller, quicker time frame, may have smaller, lesser requirements in that it doesn't necessarily have to advertise for a long time or at all. And they may only have to reach out to a couple of people. They may not even have to advertise it. But if you're participating in any type of invitation to bid or request for proposal or request for qualifications, that could be longer. And it all depends on the project, because every project is different. So, you may need more time to allow people to review the information and synthesize it and then be able to prepare something. But also not just when it's advertised, but there are changes that can occur before the project closes and before it's time for you to turn something in. They may change the requirements. They may change the scope. They may open up the question and answer period, which is a period which everyone should take advantage of. If you've reviewed what was advertised and you have questions, you turn in those questions and they answer them for everyone. And they make everybody's questions public so that everybody has the same information. So if you have any questions, no question is dumb. If you have any question or need clarity on anything, that is the time to turn it in, because if you don't and you submit and you thought it meant this, but it really meant that, and you were wrong, you wasted time and effort on something that you were never going to remotely be considered for. But you want to recognize that it's not just when it opens and when it closes, because there are these things in between that happen. So there's a question and answer period, and then there's also the fact that things could change. They could do an amendment or an addendum to the solicitation that was advertised. And you want to take in that and you want to react to that. So if they changed up how the scope was supposed to be, and you had all this intention of submitting based on the previous scope, you need to rethink, because now you need to make sure that whatever you were going to do aligns with what they now need done. And so then there's the closing date. So you've turned it in, you got to turn it in on time. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If they say they want it by 2, you have to get it there by 2. And it has to be where it's supposed to be by 2. So if it has to be to a particular office in their lobby, on their secretary's desk by 2, that's when it needs to be there. It cannot be somewhere else by 2. And you argue about, well, I got it there by 2. No, you didn't. It said it had to be at this location at 2 p.m. And that's not where you put it. That's out. You're out just because you didn't turn in the proposal on time. Right. So let's not do that. Let's not let situations as small as not turning it in on time be the reason. So you turn it in on time. It has all the things it's supposed to have. It's in the format they said it was supposed to be in, which is another thing. It is very important to read whatever it is that was posted. If they said it has to be in a blue envelope that's stapled in one corner, blue envelope stapled in one corner. Wow. And if they say you will be non-responsive if you don't do that, trust and believe you will be non-responsive for not doing that. And that's exactly what it means. You were not responsive to what it is they asked you to do, and you're out. So many people have gone out for things like that. Could have been an awesome proposal, but nobody will ever know because it doesn't even get looked at. And so after it's closed, it then has to be evaluated. So if it's, an ITB, they're looking at all the costs. They're making sure that what's submitted.
Okay, time out. ITB.
Oh, I'm sorry. My acronyms. ITB, also known as invitation to bid.
Okay.
It can also be considered an invitation for bid. So you may also see IFB. Okay. When you're out there looking at varying things, they may say ITX or IFX, and that's just them asking for experience in doing bids. RFP, request for proposal. RFQ can sometimes be request for qualifications or request for quotes, but that really depends on who it is you're submitting to. But you definitely want to know the acronyms for the places you're trying to submit things to. But if it's an ITB, the focus on that is you being responsive, you being able to do what it is they need you to do, and your price. So after it closes, they're looking at all that stuff. It takes a little longer to review pricing because you're looking at these different things, trying to make sure you're getting bang for your buck. And places award to who's responsive, who can do what they need them to do, and who also has the lowest cost. And sometimes they award to multiple people. So it's not always just whoever had the lowest price. That's who gets it. I know that that is a thought that goes around, but no, lowest price doesn't always mean best quality. So that's why they look at whether or not you're considered responsible, which is another term of art in that in this industry. Responsible. Can you do what we need you to do? How we need you to do? Responsive. Did you turn in the things we asked you to turn in? And then price. So when we're evaluating proposals, that's actually looking at the proposal. So they're reading through it. They're confirming that what they asked for was actually answered. There are many times that people will submit a proposal that doesn't even answer the bare minimum of what was being asked about. If they want to know what your plan is for managing the project, and all you say is we have a electronic system to do it, you have not explained how you're going to manage the project. Right. So you could be out for that as well. Like no one is going to be able to truly evaluate how is this going to work out for us. The proposal process is a little more subjective because you really are trying to see if these individuals can do what you need them to do in this technical space. Mm-hmm. But that's a process in itself. You may or may not be asked additional questions for clarity because some people turn in things that have errors in it. You aren't going to necessarily get kicked out for errors, but you definitely can't change anything after you've turned it in. So if you made an error and it truly is an error that you can't live with, i.e., oh, I transposed my numbers, it really was supposed to be this, but if I do that, I'm going to go bankrupt. Don't do it. And don't try to do a change order later because that's not going to work out well for you either. And you cannot change the game after you turned it in. And you'll notice that if you become familiar with whatever entities you're bidding with, if you learn their rules, you'll see the rules they have about that. There are certain things that they're willing to overlook, but things like that, not usually. So after you've turned it in, it's evaluated, you still got some time because there's a whole award process. So in state and local and city, they have to funnel that up to certain people to review and say, okay, we're willing to spend the money on this. And then they move towards getting a contract together, an actual physical contract, and everybody okay those terms and then sign it, and we move forward with a notice to proceed meeting. But federal government, it's a little longer. That's a lot more involved. There are a lot more people in that process than local government or the state would have to deal with. And so you have to be mindful of that. If you get in that space, you could turn something in and there not be a response for months to a year. Wow. And that's just kind of how that works. You have to be ready for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know you mentioned earlier that there's some smaller projects like RFQs that may not even be advertised. In situations like that, is there even a point, or do you suggest that people send perhaps unsolicited proposals just for things like that, for those items that are not actually, or those jobs that are actually not advertised?
Some places welcome that. Some places welcome that, some places do not. Mm-hmm. The first thing you want to do is let that entity know you have something to offer. So if you want to do business with a particular entity and you've never reviewed their website, you've never signed up as a supplier that can provide something, then you want to do that, because certain dollar values, those end users, and That's another term of art. Within different organizations, they may call it end user, they may call it the user department, they may call it a division or an agency. They have certain dollar thresholds that they can do stuff on their own with, and they may not have to send it to the procurement department. They can do it on their own as long as they follow certain rules. And they'll go to or use certain codes. For instance, federal government uses NAICS codes. Local government, cities, we tend to use NIGP codes. But they're very similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar. But they can use those codes to help them get a list of people who have already registered with that entity to provide that type of service. And they can use that to reach out to people and say, hey, I need to do blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me how much it's going to cost to do this and what you would do to do that? So long as it's in their little threshold to do it. And so that is one avenue where you could gain a ton of experience without ever having submitted for an ITB or RFP, because you were just that one that they would call whenever they had an issue and you had good pricing, you could do what they needed you to do. And every time they had an RFQ, they remembered you. I know in federal government, they press getting to know the contracting officer. And so you can have these meet and greets, but in local government and in state, you don't really get to do that. It's actually frowned upon because that could give the impression that people are, funneling things to you. And so you're not likely going to get a result from submitting unsolicited things or popping up on people at their office. It's probably not going to work out. But I know in federal government, their setup is different. They actually have those types of meetings where you can come in and just sit and pitch.
Okay, that's good to know the difference on those. We are heading towards the last few minutes. I just want to clarify. So I just want to give clarification to people, again, who provide services as opposed to goods, that these opportunities apply, again, to motivational speakers, to coaches, to consultants, similar process, but they are available to those parties as well, correct?
Correct. Just realize that every place has the same needs as things out in the world. So if you think about your local government, they're servicing your community. They're providing services to the elderly, to children, to schools, to jails, they're having these special events. So those are things where people are asked to do those. There are training. Training is outsourced a lot because you can't really, especially in larger counties, you really don't have the staff to offer any and everything. The county would be overflowing with employees doing that. So that stuff is outsourced too. So motivational speakers, executive coaches, therapists, like those services are also purchased by governments as well as private companies, because sometimes they want those, group coaching sessions. And they reach out to people for that. They don't necessarily always just have a go-to that handles that for them. So understand that the opportunities are everywhere, whether you are offering construction services, because we push those into services as well, whether you're offering construction services or engineering, consulting services. Hey, you're the small business person. There are small business programs in these different places that sometimes need to link up with those people that actually are out there having those conversations. And they post things as well. They have needs as well. So you don't want to be limited in what you think the government or that company offers, because they need everything.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised at what they need just based off of doing the search alone. You'll be surprised. Tree services, cutting down trees, arborists, the lawn person, the same way that we're getting quotes for who can mow our lawn, your government entity is doing the same thing. Wow. It's just on a bigger scale.
Well, this has been awesome information. Are there any last words or parting words that you would give to anyone who is looking to submit their first bid for a proposal or a project, or just overall, any suggestions for people?
There are places, there are entities, there are government entities, there are organizations that put on events that are geared to, you know, how to do business. And it's how to do business with those types of things in mind. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's $20, $50, but it's a wealth of knowledge and it's a networking opportunity. And so truly, you definitely want to network with each other because you really can't do it alone. And a lot of projects allow you to team with people to get it done. So that gives you the opportunity to link up with people that you never knew that you become friends with in a particular arena. They don't do what you do, but they do this area of it. And you've already got a ready-made person that can be a part of your team in your org chart, because a lot of times they want to see the org chart of who's going to be on the team. But you definitely want to network. It's not an island thing. It's a group thing. It's a collaboration thing all around. You definitely want to make sure you have your business stuff lined up. So important. Have your business stuff lined up, understand your finances for your business. If you are an attorney that wants to get into this, it is a whole area. There is an area called procurement law. Construction law bleeds into that. Business law bleeds into that. Compliance, it is a vast area that you can get into, whether you're trying to win the contracts or whether you're trying to help those win the contracts. It's so much. And I can't even like write it all down. There are so many areas that you could find that could fit for you.
Okay. So I can definitely see people being like, I want to see if Michelle can come speak to our little group about how to navigate this governmental bidding process. So I will leave, if you're able to give your information, I will leave that in the notes as well, if people want to contact you for that, or if you know people who, you know, can do that, because I can definitely see this as you can't get all the information here. But wanting, you know, just some more information and expertise into navigating that whole process. So
no
thank
problem.
you so much.
In places that have some organizations I'm a part of. I have some organizations I know other people are part of, and they really do give a wealth of knowledge. It is just the white papers alone are awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely put the information in the notes on the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I know you're super, super busy. You have a lot going on. So
thank you for having me and letting me participate. I love using these platforms because it also allows me to introduce myself and my county to some new vendors, because we're always looking for new vendors.
Okay. And so again, just so everyone knows, if you're in Georgia or you want to work in Georgia, specifically DeKalb County, every Monday, once a week, check out their website for those opportunities, and just all other agencies as well. I could see that there's a lot of business going on.
Yes, City of Atlanta, Fulton County, South Fulton now has their own procurement department. East Point has their own. Metro Atlanta is busy. All this construction that you're seeing, that is happening because of procurement.
There's lots going on right now.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And we hope to have you on again, and hopefully other people will be in contact with you just to get, again, some more information from you. Thanks again. Thanks for joining. Be sure to join us next week at Tuesday, same time, 12 o'clock for our next, actually next week we will have on a child support, child custody attorney on. That's the juicy area of law. So that's the fun stuff. What we do is not the fun stuff. It's not glamorous,
Yeah.
but things that affect people with their children and family law and all that. We'll be talking about that as well. I can't believe I got this far into the show without actually having a show on it, but we will before we wrap up. So thanks again, Michelle. Take care, and we will be in contact with you.
Quite welcome. Thank you.